On a warm summer night in a quiet suburb, a black driver sat frozen behind the wheel with a gun pointed at his chest and shaking headlights painting his dashboard red and blue. What neither he nor the angry officer outside his window realized in that first terrifying moment was that every second of that stop was already streaming live to hundreds of people, and within minutes to thousands more. Jalen Carter had only planned on a quick lake run to the pharmacy. He worked long shifts as an IT technician at a small hospital, fixing computers and coaxing glitchy systems back to life. It was close to midnight when he finally clocked out, eyes tired, shoulders stiff, thinking only of the headache medicine he'd promised his sister he'd grab on his way home. The streets were nearly empty as he drove through his neighborhood, soft R&B playing low on the radio, windows rolled up against the sticky heat. He was less than 10 minutes from home when the sudden flash of blue and red exploded in his rearview mirror, turning the dark world outside into a strobe-lit tunnel. He swallowed hard, instinctively glancing at his speedometer. 32 in a 30. Turn signal used, seatbelt on. Everything looked right, but Jalen's heart still began to pound. He signaled, pulled over smoothly to the side of the residential street, and rolled down his window halfway. His hands moved automatically to the top of the steering wheel, fingers spread wide. The music was now a faint whisper under the insult of sirens. In the mirror, he watched the officer climb out of the cruiser, stocky, white, short-cropped gray hair. The word police glowed faintly on his chest in the reflection of the lights. There was something about the tight set of his mouth, the way he approached the driver's side door, not cautiously but aggressively, like he already had his villain decided, that made Jalen's throat go dry. "Turn the engine off," the officer barked, before he was even fully at the window. His hand hovered near his holster, fingers flexing. "Yes, sir," Jalen said, voice trembling as he twisted the key. The engine coughed and died. The street suddenly felt too quiet, every rustle and distant dog bark amplified. "What's the problem, officer?" he asked carefully. The officer leaned down, glaring through the open window. "The problem," he snapped, "is that you matched the description of a suspect fleeing a burglary 2 blocks over. Black male, dark shirt, dark sedan. That sound familiar to you?" Jalen blinked. His hospital ID still hung loosely from his neck, the plastic catching the red-blue flashes. "No, sir," he said. "I just got off work. I live 4 blocks away. I haven't been near any—" "Don't interrupt me." The officer's voice sharpened, slicing through Jalen's words. "Hands where I can see them. Keep them there." "They're right here," Jalen replied, glancing at his own fingers clamped onto the wheel. "I'm not reaching for anything." The officer's eyes darted into the car, scanning the seats as if expecting a weapon to materialize out of thin air. He took a step closer, his face inches from the glass now, breath fogging the edge of the window. "License and registration," he barked. "My wallet is in my back pocket. My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach for them slowly with my right hand if that's okay." "I didn't ask for your commentary," the officer growled. The hand near his holster twitched. For a split second, his fingers brushed the grip of his gun. "Just do what I say, no sudden moves." Jalen's stomach tightened. Something about the man's tone felt unhinged, like a fuse already lit. Years of warnings from his father flooded back. "Don't argue on the street, son. Argue in court. Don't give anybody an excuse." His fingers trembled as he slid his right hand down from the wheel, moving excruciatingly slowly toward his pocket. What Jalen didn't know, because he had nearly forgotten it himself, was that the moment his car sensed a sudden deceleration followed by flashing red and blue lights behind him, an app on his phone had kicked in. A small feature he'd set up months ago after seeing too many videos online. Automatic emergency live stream. His forward-facing camera had turned on silently, beaming his view of the dashboard and the officer at his window straight to a private link he had shared with family and a few close friends. One of those friends, a night shift nurse named Tasha, was scrolling half awake on her couch when the alert popped up. Jalen Carter, emergency stream started. She tapped it out of idle curiosity and sat bolt upright as the image appeared.
If you think this little guy is cute, please hit like and subscribe, or else this man will knock on your doorstep tomorrow.
On Jalen's end, all he could feel was the sweat beading on his forehead. His fingers gripped his wallet, pulled it out slowly, laid it on the dashboard. Then he reached for the glove compartment. Every inch of movement announced. "I'm opening the glove compartment now," he said, voice shaking. "Just my registration in here. That's it." "Stop narrating," the officer snapped. "You think I don't know your games? All you innocent people who act like victims? Move one wrong muscle and see what happens." Jalen's lungs felt tight, like the night air itself was shrinking. He slid the registration out, placed it beside his wallet, then moved his hand back to the wheel. "There," he whispered. "My license is in the wallet. You can take it." Instead of reaching for the paperwork, the officer suddenly yanked Jalen's door open. The hinges groaned. Jalen flinched, one hand instinctively coming off the wheel, starting to raise in surprise. "Hands on the dash," the officer shouted, spit flying. "Now!" "Okay." Jalen slammed both palms flat against the dashboard. His heart hammered so hard he could hear it. From her couch miles away, Tasha gasped. "Oh my God," she whispered, scrambling to hit the share button on the stream. She forwarded the link to her family group chat, to Jalen's sister, to a community watch page she followed. Along with it, she typed, "This is happening live. It's Jalen. Somebody call 911 and ask for a supervisor now." On the street, the officer, his badge read Thomas, had now pulled his gun halfway from its holster. The metal glinted in the harsh wash of the cruiser's headlights. "Step out of the car," he barked, the barrel tilting, not pointed fully yet, but close enough that Jalen could see straight down the dark circle at the end. Jalen's voice broke. "Sir, please, my hands are already up. I'm not armed. I haven't done anything. I'm just trying to go home." "Out of the car," Thomas repeated, each word like a hammer blow. A neighbor's porch light flicked on down the block. A figure stepped outside, pausing as they took in the flashing lights and raised voices. Another window across the street glowed as someone peered through their blinds. Inside the live stream, comments were beginning to flood in. "Is this real? Call 911 now. Stay calm, bro. Get his badge number." Some viewers captured the stream with their own screen recorders, already thinking about reposts in case the original disappeared. Jalen slowly unbuckled his seatbelt, the faint click sounding like a gunshot in the silence. He kept one hand raised, fingers spread, while he swung his legs out gingerly onto the pavement. As soon as his foot touched the ground, Thomas took a step back, fully drawing his weapon now, arm locked, aiming squarely at Jalen's chest. "Hands up," Thomas yelled. "Turn around. Don't look at me." Jalen's knees felt like they might buckle. He stared at the black hole at the end of the barrel, and for a split second he saw his mother's face flash through his mind. The way she had hugged him before he moved out, whispering, "Please come home every night. That's all I ask." "Please," he whispered, tears stinging his eyes. "Please don't shoot me. I'm not your suspect. You can check everything. I work at the hospital. My name is Jalen Carter. I live right there." With a trembling chin, he nodded toward the corner, where his small apartment building stood just 1 block away. "Shut up," Thomas shouted. "Get on your knees." The order hung in the air like a verdict. Jalen's legs trembled. He began to sink slowly, hands still raised, feeling the rough pavement scrape his skin as he knelt. Far away, phones were ringing. Jalen's sister, Nia, had clicked on the link and let out a scream so loud her husband dropped his own phone. She dialed 911 with shaking fingers, shouting their brother's location, begging for a supervisor, her voice cracking as she tried to describe what she saw on the stream. Others did the same. Within minutes, dispatch was flooded with callers talking about a black man with his hands up on Elm Street, officer with a drawn gun, everything being filmed live. Back on Elm, another cruiser screeched around the corner, lights blazing. Thomas flinched, briefly tearing his eyes away from Jalen to glance at the newcomer. A sergeant stepped out this time, taller, older, his expression tense but composed. He took in the scene quickly, the kneeling man, the trembling hands, the gun leveled at his chest. "Thomas, what the hell is going on here? I've got a suspect matching the burglary bolo. He was acting evasive, reaching around. I feared for my safety. He's kneeling in the street with his hands up. Holster your weapon now." For a second, Thomas hesitated. Then, with a visible swallow, he lowered the gun, sliding it back into its holster with stiff movements. Jalen let out a shaky breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Sir," Jalen whispered to the sergeant, still on his knees. "I didn't do anything. I'm coming from work. I showed him my license and registration. He never even looked at them." The sergeant nodded slowly. "Stand up," he said, voice softer. "Keep your hands visible." He glanced at Thomas. "Have you run his plates? His ID?" Thomas shifted, suddenly looking less sure of himself. "I was about to when he started getting mouthy," he muttered. The sergeant gave him a look so cold it cut deeper than any shouted order. "You pull a weapon on a man before you even confirm who he is?" he asked, voice low. "Are you out of your mind?" Something buzzed in Thomas's pocket. He ignored it. Then his radio crackled to life. "Unit 27, be advised," dispatch said. "We're receiving multiple calls about your stop on Elm. Reports say the interaction is being live-streamed and there are numerous online viewers. Command wants a status update now." Jalen's head jerked up. For the first time that night, he remembered the emergency app he'd installed. A wild, shaky hope fluttered in his chest. He glanced at his dashboard where his phone lay mounted, tiny green light glowing beside the camera. Still rolling, still sending. Thomas's face drained of color. "Live streamed," he repeated. He looked instinctively at the car, at the tiny shining lens pointed right at him. The skin around his mouth tightened. "Yeah, live streamed," the sergeant confirmed, following his gaze. "And I can guarantee it's already being recorded and shared. Congratulations, Thomas. The whole city might be watching you right now." For the first time, Thomas took a step back from Jalen, as if distance could undo what had already happened. His eyes darted up and down the street. The opened blinds, the porch light with a neighbor standing on it, the faint glow of phone screens being held up. He looked suddenly small, his authority shrinking under the weight of all those unseen eyes. The sergeant walked over to Jalen, offering a hand to help him fully to his feet. "Mr. Carter, I'm going to personally run your information. You don't move, you don't reach for anything. We'll settle this the way it should have been done in the first place." Within minutes, the truth came back simple and crystal clear. No warrants, no criminal history. Registration valid. Address matching his license. Hospital employment confirmed. The burglary suspect they were looking for, dispatch added, had already been picked up 3 blocks away, 20 minutes earlier. The sergeant's jaw clenched. "So at the time you pulled your weapon, this man didn't even fit an active suspect search." Thomas opened his mouth, closed it again. He matched the description," he muttered weakly. "His car looked... I thought... You thought skin color plus a dark sedan was enough to terrify a man on his way home from work," the sergeant snapped, "while the whole thing was being broadcast to God knows how many people." Jalen stood by his car, arms wrapped around himself, shaking from the adrenaline. The gun was back in its holster, but the memory of that barrel aimed at him felt burned into his bones. "Mr. Carter," the sergeant said, turning back to him, "on behalf of this department, I'm sorry. You will be provided with the incident report, and you should know Internal Affairs will review the footage and the calls. You have every right to file a formal complaint, and based on what I've already seen, I would encourage you to do so." Jalen stared at him, breathing hard. He looked at Thomas, who couldn't quite meet his eyes anymore. In that moment, the officer's earlier rage had crumbled, replaced by something very close to fear. Not fear for his life, but fear for his career, his reputation, the investigations that would follow once the world saw him shouting with a gun pointed at a man whose only crime was driving while black. "I will be filing more than a complaint," Jalen said quietly. "But right now, I just want to go home alive." When he finally pulled into his parking lot 15 minutes later, Naya was already there, sprinting to his car, tears streaking her face. She grabbed him in a hug so tight he could barely breathe, sobbing into his shoulder. "We saw everything," she choked. "We saw the gun. We saw you on your knees. We thought—" She couldn't finish. Over the next days, the video spread wider than Jalen ever expected. Clips of the live stream circulated on social media with captions like, "He could have been killed," and "Officer pulls gun on innocent man until he realizes he's being filmed." News vans showed up on Elm, interviewing neighbors who would watch from their windows. The police department released a carefully worded statement promising a thorough investigation. But beyond the headlines, something deeper began to happen. In community meetings, people played the video not just to rage, but to ask hard questions. Why did it take a live stream to prevent a tragedy? How many stops just like this had happened when no camera was rolling? What did accountability look like when a man's life could hang on whether or not his phone battery was charged? Jalen agreed to tell his story publicly, not because he wanted the attention, but because he couldn't stand the thought of someone else living through that terror alone. Standing in front of a crowd at the local community center, the same shaking he'd felt on the pavement returned. But this time, it pushed his voice forward instead of silencing it. "I shouldn't need an app to survive a traffic stop," he told them. "I shouldn't have to hope that strangers on the internet might keep me alive. But that night, they did. And I'm grateful. To everyone who watched, who called, who refused to look away, thank you. But don't let it end with my story. Keep watching, keep recording, keep demanding better." In the end, Officer Thomas was suspended, then removed from duty after Internal Affairs confirmed what the video had already shown: unjustified escalation, racial bias, failure to follow procedure. For some, that was justice. For Jalen, it was just a beginning. He joined a local coalition that pushed for better de-escalation training, for independent review boards, for broader use of body cameras that couldn't be conveniently turned off. Sometimes, late at night, he would still hear the echo of "get on your knees" in his memory and feel his heart start to race. But then he'd remember that tiny green light on his dashboard, the one thing Thomas hadn't counted on. He'd remember the flood of comments, the people leapt into action from living rooms and bedrooms and quiet night shifts miles away. And he'd remember that look on Thomas's face when he realized the whole world might be watching. If this story shook you, don't let it just be another video you scroll past. Share it with someone who still thinks these things only happen in movies. Talk about it with your friends, your family, your community. Stand up when you see someone being treated as less than human, whether they're on your street or on your screen. And if you want more real stories that expose injustice, honor survivors, and push us all to demand something better, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Together, we can keep turning quiet, hidden moments of abuse into loud calls for change until no one needs a live stream just to make it home. Thank you for watching DashCam and Justice Stories. You love more stories like this? Click the videos above and see you there.